They came from across the sea, cloaked in mystery, cloaked in grey, white, brown and blue. The Istari, or as we know them, the wizards of Middle-earth, were not just wise old men with staffs. They were beings of divine origin, sent by the gods themselves to guide, not to dominate. But who were they really? Why did they come? And what was their true purpose in the fate of Middle-earth? Welcome to Somewhat Flawed, and today we unveil the secret history of the Istari, the enigmatic order of wizards in Tolkien's legendarium. Who were the Istari? The word Istari means wise ones in Quenya, and they weren't mortal men. The Istari were Maiar, lesser Ainur, immortal spirits created by Eru Iluvatar before the shaping of the world. These divine beings once served the Vala, the godlike powers that dwell in Valinor. Around the year 1000 of the Third Age, the Vala, worried about Sauron's growing power, sent 5 of these Maiar to Middle-earth, but not as mighty beings of fire and light. Instead, they came clothed in aged mortal form, bound by human limitations. Their mission: to guide, not dominate, to inspire, not rule. For if they sought power for themselves, they would fall to the very darkness they were meant to fight. The 5 wizards. Gandalf the Grey, also known as Olorin in Valinor, was the wisest of the Maiar. In Valinor, he dwelt in the gardens of Irmo and often walked among the elves in secret, teaching and guiding them through dreams and gentle counsel. When the Vala chose to send emissaries to Middle-earth to counter Sauron, Olorin was initially hesitant. He feared failure and doubted his own strength, but this humility was precisely why Vala Manwe deemed him the most suited for the task. Clad in grey robes, he became known as Gandalf the Grey and wandered Middle-earth aiding elves, men, and hobbits alike. Unlike the other Istari, Gandalf never sought power or glory, only to do what was right. His role was subtle, guiding leaders like Aragorn, Theoden, and Frodo through wisdom and encouragement, never domination. He wielded Narya, the elven ring of fire, which helped him inspire hope and courage. After battling the Balrog in Moria, Gandalf died, but was sent back as Gandalf the White, replacing Saruman as the head of the Order. He played a pivotal role in the War of the Ring, and once Sauron was defeated, sailed into the west, having completed his divine mission with honor. Saruman the White, aka Kurumo, was the chief of the Istari and the most learned. He was a Maya of Aule, the Vala of craft and knowledge. He was the first and foremost of the Istari to arrive in Middle-earth and was originally the most powerful among them. Saruman was named the chief of the Order and later the head of the White Council, a group formed to resist Sauron's rise. In his early years, Saruman was noble and wise, studying the arts and devices of the enemy in order to understand and defeat him. However, over time, this obsession led him to corruption. He delved too deeply into the knowledge of the rings of power. He betrayed his mission, used a palantir, which ultimately allowed Sauron to ensnare his mind. Believing that Sauron could not be defeated, Saruman resolved to rival him instead. He turned Isengard into a fortress, bred armies of Uruk-hai, and sought the One Ring for himself. Saruman's downfall was gradual but complete. Pride, control, and lust for power eclipsed his original purpose. After his defeat by Gandalf, his spirit was cast out and blown away, barred from returning to Valinor, a tragic fall from divine grace. Radagast the Brown, or Iwendil, was sent by Maya of Yavanna, the Vala associated with nature, plants, and animals. Unlike his brethren, Radagast had little interest in the affairs of men or the larger battles between good and evil. Instead, he was deeply attuned to the natural world and became a guardian of beasts and birds. He lived in Rosgobel, on the edges of Mirkwood, and while he did not actively oppose Sauron in any grand way, he served as a quiet protector of nature. Tolkien portrayed Radagast as well-meaning but distracted, a wizard who, while not corrupt like Saruman, nonetheless failed his mission by withdrawing from the greater conflict. His compassion for the living world led him to lose focus on his divine task. In The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, his role is minimal, although he plays a part in aiding Gandalf indirectly by summoning Gwaihir the Eagle. Ultimately, Radagast fades into obscurity, and his fate remains unknown. Some fans argue that while he did not fulfill his original mission, he still served a greater good as his protection of nature was his own quiet success. And then there are the mystery men, Alatar and Palando, the Blue Wizards. They were the Maya of Orome, the Vala associated with hunting and exploring distant lands. Unlike the other Istari, they did not travel westward into the lands of Gondor or Rohan, but instead ventured into the unknown. While Tolkien wrote little about them in The Lord of the Rings, later texts such as Unfinished Tales and the Letters of Tolkien suggest two contrasting outcomes. In earlier versions, they were said to have failed their mission, possibly establishing dark cults or fading into obscurity. However, in Tolkien's revised later writings, he hinted that the Blue Wizards might have actually been instrumental in weakening Sauron's influence in the east. Their work may have prevented massive eastern armies from joining Sauron, buying precious time for the free peoples of the west. If this is true, they could be one of the unsung heroes of the War of the Ring, their actions veiled in secrecy, far from the eyes of elves and men. Unlike Sauron or Morgoth, the Istari were forbidden from using force or dominating others. They were limited, on purpose. The Valar had learned that power corrupts, even the divine. The Istari were to inspire the free peoples, to guide through wisdom and counsel, not through displays of might. That's why they were clothed in old age, symbols of patience, humility, and wisdom. Their success or failure would depend on their hearts, not their power. The tale of the Istari is one of power, temptation, failure, and triumph. They came not to change the world by force, but to give others the chance to rise.